What's up, guys? I'm BTC. A brand new patch is live on the servers. In addition to Halloween Terror, there's also a whole bunch of buffs and nerfs. A lot of characters got some pretty significant changes, so let's get to it. First up is Torbjorn. I'm not going to go too much into this character because I'm working on a new video that is a complete guide to every single change, all the damage, how the cooldowns have changed, the distances, how the ultimate works, all that sort of stuff. Everything broken down with distance and everything. So that should be coming out pretty soon. The short version of Torbjorn is his primary attack got sped up. Secondary attack is weaker, but it has a faster attack time as well. You can now throw the turret and it will build itself automatically. There's lots of stuff to do with the cooldowns though, so you can't just get the same cooldown every single time. Whether it got destroyed by you or the enemy or you simply replace it, that all gets changed. It has less health than it did before. It now only has 250 health. It still does the same damage, but again, you can't upgrade it. It upgrades itself automatically. You can repair it with the hammer, but that's it. And the level 3 is just completely gone. He has a new ability called Overload, which replaces the armor pack ability, and this is like a mini molten core. So his attack, movement, and reload speeds all get increased by 30%. He gets an extra 150 armor. And his new ultimate, which is still called Molten Core, now throws out a bunch of lava pools, which do a crazy amount of damage. But again, there are a lot of things to go over about how that ultimate works, because there's lots of stuff to know about how it deals the damage, the distances, the heights, all that kind of stuff. So again, I'll make a complete guide. It should be out in the next day or two. Next up is Doomfist, and he got a damage nerf. His hand cannon, the primary attack, damage falloff now starts at 15 meters. Developer comments, Doomfist is all about getting up close and personal with his enemies, but his hand cannon spread was tight enough to do surprising amounts of damage at longer ranges, especially against bigger targets. This change brings his weapon in line with other shotgun-style weapons by making its damage falloff beyond 15 meters. Okay, so this is about consistency, which is fine, because really, you should have it so that when you switch from one character to another, you expect the same kind of stuff to go on in terms of fall-off range and all that sort of stuff. So that makes sense. One thing that I have to take issue with here is they're doing the same thing to Doomfist that they were talking about in the previous patch with Roadhog. Because if you remember, they gave him fall-off damage and they complained about him doing too much damage at long range. And now they're complaining about Doomfist doing too much damage at long range. Literally, no one has ever complained that Doomfist and Roadhog do too much damage at long range. I have no idea where they're getting this stuff from. Moving on, McCree, combat roll. Cooldown reduced from 8 seconds to 6 seconds. Developer comments, previously McCree's combat roll cooldown felt too restrictive, which sometimes prohibited players from using it. The new faster cooldown allows for more flexibility when choosing between using it for the mobility or an instant reload. Everybody is going to use it for instant reload. That's pretty much the main thing that you use it for. This is a pretty significant buff to McCree. It means you're going to have a much higher overall damage output. Even though each attack still does the same, the fact that you can reload faster and just have more ammo means that his total damage goes up. So this is definitely good for him. I still would really like for them to be able to make it so combat roll works when you're in the air, because I can't tell you how many times I jump and hit the combat roll and it doesn't do anything. It's just frustrating. Next up is Pharah. This is kind of a mix of nerfs and buffs. So the concussive blast cooldown was reduced from 12 to 9 seconds. Definitely a buff for everyone. Rocket launcher attack speed increased, also a buff for everyone. Damage was redistributed between explosive and impact. Basically, they took away some of the AoE damage and they put it towards the direct impact damage. So she still does the same if it's a direct hit, but all the stuff that's in the area will now take less damage. So for the higher skill Pharah players, this is going to not really change too much. Now, it's going to be more damage total because they can attack faster and they can still hit their targets. So for them, this is going to be about the same, maybe a little bit more. For the lower skill Pharah players, then this is definitely a nerf because they relied on that AoE damage to kind of buffer up their extra damage when they're missing their shots. And then the explosive knockback was reduced by 20%. This is kind of a buff, kind of a nerf, so it means that it's going to be easier to line up your second hit whenever you hit someone with the rocket, but it also means that they now can recover a little bit faster and counterattack. And self-knockback amount was increased by 25%. This is also a buff for all players of Pharah because it simply means that you're now going to be able to boost yourself and move yourself around a little bit better. Next up is Orisa. She got a buff. Her primary attack, the Fusion Driver, maximum spread reduced by 20%. That is a pretty significant change. That means all of the stuff that she's attacking at medium and long range, it's going to be a lot easier for her to hit those targets. Now, you still have to lead the targets. The projectile speed is still the same, so you still have to work with that. But because it's a much tighter spread, it means that she's going to be able to hit a lot more than she has been before. This is a flat damage buff. I mean, you still need to hit stuff, so it's not like each individual attack goes up, but the overall total damage that she has is going to go up, similar to like what happened with McCree. Next one is Soldier 76. This is the same situation. He got a buff. The primary attack number of shots until reaching maximum spread was increased from 6 to 9. And this is kind of the same deal where he's now going to be able to attack for a much longer time before he needs to stop and let the weapon recoil reset. So this overall is going to be a larger amount of total damage that you can put out. Moving on to Brigitte, she got a nerf barrier shield. The health was reduced from 600 to 500. Developer comments say, the health of Brigitte's barrier was extremely difficult for most heroes to deal with, especially as she closes the distance to her targets. This change still provides Brigitte with substantial survivability, but should also be more rewarding for opponents who pressure her. Alright, so there's a whole bunch of stuff to go over with this. First, is this a significant change to Brigitte? It's definitely gonna sting. Losing that 100 on the shield is definitely a good chunk of it, but it's not really gonna change a lot of the fundamental stuff about the character. And what Blizzard said about the health of Brigitte's barrier being extremely difficult for most heroes to deal with is simply not true. That is not true in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Her shield is extremely easy to destroy. Again, they think that Roadhog and Doomfist are snipers, and they think that this shield is difficult to destroy. I don't understand where they're getting this information from, but it's wrong. So, no, it was easy to destroy before, and it's even easier to destroy now. The problem with Brigitte is that players simply do not want to learn how to counter and how to adapt. You have the same players who are constantly making mistakes, they're overextending, they're playing out of position, they're going into her damage zone, and then they simply want to complain that the character is too strong. Rather than complaining, they should be learning how to play around the character, because the fact of the matter is, Brigitte is extremely easy to counter when you know what to do. But for some players, they're just never going to be happy. They constantly whined about Roadhog until he got nerfed into oblivion. They're going to keep complaining about Brigitte. Even if her damage was reduced down to 1 per hit, they would still complain about it. But for those of you that actually want to learn how to counter this character, I'm making a video. It will go over everything you need to know, how to counter her, and how to destroy Brigitte in every single match you get into, because it's really not that difficult once you know what to do. A couple other things worth mentioning is the whip boost has been removed from the game. It's not in the patch notes, but Brigitte had the ability to use a shield bash followed immediately by a whip shot, and it would propel her quite a distance horizontally. That has been removed from the game. You can't do it anymore. And also, Torbjorn, while he's available to play in all the other modes, you cannot use him in competitive for the next 2 weeks, because apparently they felt that his rework was significant enough that they wanted to take him out of competitive. So if you want to practice, go to Quick Play Arcade, whatever. So that's all the patch updates for today, but lots to look forward to. That complete guide to the new Torb should be out in a day or two, and then shortly after that, the counter video for Brigitte as well. So if you're new, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of that. Thanks for watching, and if you'd like to see more, subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss anything. Also, come hang out in my Discord server and my Twitch live stream. Special thanks to my Patreon supporters. If you'd like to see what kind of cool VIP rewards you can get, check the links down below. And remember, always blame the controller, because it's never your fault.